And what's up, guys? Welcome here to a stream talking about the significant severe weather threat here. It's going to be happening across portions of central and northern Illinois, extreme southeast portions of Iowa, northeast extreme Missouri, even extending to northwest Indiana and southwest portions of Michigan. And the reason for this being is because there's going to be a low pressure system here coming through. You're going to have a warm front that extends over this portion here. And with that warm frontal zone setting up, you'll have this warm sector and warm front as well, with supercells developing along the warm front, and then also tornadic supercells in the warm sector as well. The environment is very supportive of very violent long track tornadoes if the supercells do take advantage of the environment that they're given. Some of the forecast models are going back and forth if storms will fire late evening or late afternoon. I think there's a good time frame anywhere between 21Z and 000, which would be between 4 and 6 p.m. is when we'll see our supercells initially fire off. They could develop 3 p.m., but I think the prime time when they do develop is between 4 and 6 p.m. There's two areas that we're watching here where supercells will likely do develop, probably along this corridor right here, which is where that 10% hatch is. So I'm thinking right here in this corridor is where we're going to have potentially violent tornado perimeters here. STP, significant tornado perimeters, on the rise starting tomorrow afternoon and evening, and along this area will probably be very prime for tornadoes between 4 and 11 p.m. tomorrow. Even after dark, these storms will eventually go into northwest Indiana, northeast Illinois, and even affecting parts of Union City again. So Union City is definitely in 2% tornado risk here. You guys are not even out of the neck of the woods, because there is a possible chance that this front could lift like right here, and then you'll have potential for some tornadic supercells right here across southwest extreme Michigan and northern northwest Indiana. So that's where we're talking about the chance of tornado potentials out here across this region area too. So do not just be focusing on just the 2% tornado risk. When you have a warm front over your area, right, speaking to you guys directly in Union City and Three Rivers, because you guys said you guys weren't aware, but you guys should be aware if you're watching this video right now. Just because you're in a 2% tornado risk does not mean you're out of the neck of the woods. 2% means that there's probably capping issues, but all the dynamics are there for tornadoes. If you get one supercell to develop in your area tomorrow across southwest extreme Michigan, you might have another similar scenario to Union City tornado, because these storms will be on the warm front or just south of the warm front, and they will be right movers, and they will be producing tornadoes that could be long tracked. So be weather aware tomorrow. Just because you're in a lighter color or a different, zone of severe weather based on SPC doesn't mean you're out of the neck of the woods. So yeah, I'm very paying attention to this area tomorrow right here across southwest extreme Michigan and northern northwest Indiana, because you're along the warm front, and some of the models do indicate, if not late evening supercells, that overnight supercells could produce tornadoes across this region area. But then you have the main 10% tornado risk here across the area, with EF2 plus tornadoes possible. So but this is the whole 10% risk. And then we go over here and we could check out the hail risk, and just not the tornado risk, but the hail risk too. And that goes all the way into Union City too. Some locations could see baseball size hail, or larger, even up to tennis ball size hail is possible. So 2-inch plus in diameter hail to 3-inch in diameter hail for mostly storms tomorrow. Even going into the Chicagoland area, you have a higher risk of seeing very, very large hailstones tomorrow, even into the suburbs of Chicago. So you're not even on the neck of the woods. So just because you're in the city doesn't mean you're going to see a supercell. Chances are likely you will see supercells tomorrow. And if you don't see tornadoes, you will see very large hailstones and damaging winds up to 75 plus miles an hour. My target tomorrow is probably going to be starting around Pontiac, maybe to Peoria or Bloomington area. But I'm thinking this area right here needs to be on the trend for a watch. Watching out for a violent tornado tracking across the area, because the models have been very consistently showing this area right here being the prime area for tornadoes tomorrow. So we are going to be going south, probably staging just near or north of Bloomington, and then waiting for storms to develop, or just being right on the warm front. But the model's been very consistently showing the warm front lines up right around that area. So we'll watch the convergence line, how that moisture gets pulled up to the warm front and then builds, and cumulus field does develop. So watch how that warm front does lift north in the morning. And then we'll go to the wind risk here tomorrow across the area. There's a 15% chance of damaging winds. That's because this is a enhanced driven risk for tornadoes and very large hail, so isolated supercells. This is not going to be the primary hazard. Is not winds. Primary hazards tomorrow are tornadoes and very large hail. So I say, going back to the tornado risk here, very large area, being supportive for strong to possibly long track violent tornadoes across the area. So this whole area that's in the hatch area needs to be on focus for possible strong tornadoes tomorrow, and it does include the Chicagoland area. South suburbs are in that hatch area for conditional intensity of EF2 plus tornadoes. But let's go ahead and switch over to some of the forecast models in here and go over some so I was reading here some of the forecast discussions here, especially Chicago AFD or the Lincoln AFD. Also, flooding's a big concern too. Just gonna check out the forecast models here. And we'll go to the NDFD forecast model, check out temperatures and dew points comparison between other forecast models as well. So right here is the temperature. Temperatures today across the area might reach 70s across most of Illinois today, so that's just today. Then we go into Tuesday. Look at Tuesday here on the NDFD forecast model showing temperatures in the mid to upper 70s, almost 80 degrees across some locations across west, southwest Illinois tomorrow. So you can see there's definitely a well-defined warm sector and warm front here across the region area. And that's just the NDFD forecast model, so it does tell me that there's definitely the potential for strong to violent supercells producing strong tornadoes tomorrow. Surface moisture, check our dew point here. 60 dew points across the whole entire warm sector, but see where the warm front lies based on this? Showing the real warm front here. 60 dew points is just right there draped near Bloomington or north of Bloomington between Pontiac to Champaign area and then west towards maybe Galesburg. So that's where the warm front looks to be setting up. You see it sits there all day. And it does not move. So there's definitely a very large window there for violent tornadic supercells to at least 4 or 5 a.m. is when the front finally starts moving, is around 4 or 5 a.m. That is a whole day of the warm front not moving, and just tornadic supercells could be trading over the same area all day. Then we go over to the HERT. Well, let's go to RFS. RFS model agrees with the NDFD forecast model of where the warm front's going to be. And it looks like that is a potentially lake breeze. See the moisture gets pushed off from the lake? That is a lake breeze coming off the lake right there, it looks like. So it keeps the warm front south. And you're going to wait for that lake breeze to retreat back, or the warm front pushes the lake breeze further north. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that lake breeze interacts with the warm front tomorrow, get that convergence build up. So if that lake breeze hits, that cooler air hits the warm front, that deep moisture and instability, we could get supercells to develop right off of that instantly. So we'll have to watch that carefully, because that lake breeze that comes off here hits that warm front right there just near or north of Bloomington, and you probably get supercell development right off of that. See how they just explode? The RFS model picks up on that lake breeze that runs into the warm front. And you get supercells that train right along the warm front, west to east oriented with that boundary, and they become long track tornado producing supercells. But you get this early bird here as well. It could be big time tornado producer too, and he becomes a right mover on the warm front, becomes long track. So he goes across like 4 or 6 counties, eastern Illinois into Indiana. And you get the rest of the supercells here traded across the area here, across portions of northern Illinois, central northern Illinois. Environment's very supportive of tornadoes tomorrow. Look at that environment. There's some very dynamic system here that's coming through the area. Look at your tornado perimeters are skyrocketing along that warm front. Really determines how far north that warm front goes and how that lake breeze pushes that warm front. The warm front fights against the lake breeze, or if there's no lake breeze at all, we'll see what happens. But models are picking up on the lake breeze pushing out, so we'll see how that does play into the tornado potential tomorrow. See, that lake breeze hits the warm front here, and that supercell is the first one that fires around 4 p.m. and goes east. Now let's just check out our helicity tracks here. That's a lot of helicity tracks, so that indicates rotating supercells for very large hell. Can either be based on hell or rotating 0 to 3 kilometer. So it could be off rotational tracks or just hell tracks as well. But this is definitely a very strong potentially sign of long track supercells here across the area if they're large hell producing or tornadic producing. That's just RFS model now. Let's go over to the HER. HER model time. So here's HER model. HER model has not been doing good lately on its last few chases. I've been leaning more towards RFS because RFS did nail the initiation just 2 hours before storms near Childress, where they were supposed to develop west to Childress, and they did. So the HER model hasn't been really confident on things, so I'm leaning off the HER model. But the HER model still shows a violent, atmosphere. But based on cams and how it initiates and stuff, I just kind of don't agree with it because it hasn't been really on point for the last chases, so I can't really agree with it. So that's what it's showing, still showing supercells across the area and the environment, but I just don't agree on it right now. And then you got the FE3 model, which is very consistent on showing supercells across the area. They go along the waterfront, become turning right movers. Look at that right mover there. Develops on the waterfront, turns right, and goes east. All the models do indicate a very violent atmosphere for strong rotating supercells tomorrow, regardless of however you look at it. I wouldn't rely too much on cams. Now it's just wait till tomorrow and see where that warm front lines up and watch the warm front and go from there. Whenever you see bubble and Q on the warm front tomorrow, be on that storm because I'm telling you it's going to take off really quickly once it breaks that cap on the warm front, and it's going to turn right pretty quick. I want to check out the rat model now. It's the newest rat model run right now. Rat model is consistently keeping the warm front south. Right there. See, the lake breeze keeps it south. We'll see how far north this warm front goes. Just be wherever the warm front goes. Don't pay too close attention to SPC outlooks or anything. Wherever that warm front sets up at is where your tornado potential is going to be. So just make sure you're there at that warm front because that's where your max tornado potential is going to be. Your photographs here are insane. We just do a box down in here across all central Illinois here. And just your average photograph here is just still in largely curve. NAM model here, 12Z rod, still showing a very violent atmosphere. Box down here, northeast Missouri into central Illinois. Very strongly dynamic. Your photographs here are off the charts. I would definitely pay attention if you're out there chasing tomorrow. One thing I've been noticing on all the forecast models, there is a lake breeze that gets pushed off mid to late morning off Lake Michigan and pushes south. Wherever that lake breeze interacts with the warm front could cause enough convergence. Cool air coming from that lake breeze hits the really hot warm air mass, right? So you could have exploding supercells. As soon as that hits the lake breeze and the warm front interact with each other, you could have exploded supercells if there's bubbling Q already in place. That is enough forcing from that lake breeze that hits that warm air, cooling off the upper levels right there. If there is a gap in place, it's going to make that supercell want to take off and explode. So it's very important to see if that lake. So two scenarios I'm seeing here. Either the lake breeze doesn't take off tomorrow and is forced for keeping up further north, which allows the warm front to advance further more north up to the I-80 corridor, especially potentially south of the Chicago area. Otherwise, SBC is going to have a big adjustment after midnight tonight, forcing that 10% further south. Now, the other scenario is that the lake breeze, no, the only way that the 10% is going to be forced and the whole SBC outlook is going to be shifted south is that the lake breeze is more consistently showing it's going to shove the warm front further south and keep it south and doesn't reach Chicagoland area. Lake breeze always saves Chicago from tornadoes every single time. Now, if the lake breeze, if the warm front shows and fights against the lake breeze and forces it north, or if the lake breeze, as soon as it hits the warm front, could have supercells that fire exploding between 3 and 4 p.m. tomorrow. That's the only scenarios I'm seeing here with that lake breeze having any potential with the warm front. So it's very important to watch where that warm front interacts. Basically, I see the warm front probably reaching up here to Pontiac, and the lake breeze comes out like this and goes this way, and the warm front's going like this. So we're probably going to have bubbling Q or a convergence line right here along that warm front, probably like 3 to 4 p.m. tomorrow. We're probably going to see our supercells fire anywhere between near Pontiac to Kankakee is what I'm thinking. Based on if that lake breeze does, because lake breeze is going to touch that part of the warm front first. You could have supercells develop across northwest Indiana and southwest Michigan on that lake breeze that interacts with the warm front. So it's really hard to say, but I do think that that lake breeze is going to have a really tough time fighting against that really strong warm air mass, because it's not as cooler, like as strong. It's just a regular lake breeze pushing off. The warm front tomorrow is not going to budge, so don't expect us to have a fell mode because the lake breeze is going to cut off the environment. I don't think the lake breeze is going to shove the warm front that far south. If it does shove it, it might shove it about 10 miles south, but that warm air is going to fight because there's a very strong local jet. So I doubt it that lake breeze kills the environment tomorrow, but it is going to cause supercells to fire and break cap if there is a cap in place that everyone's saying it's coming up on the forecast models, but that should be able to break the cap when you get that convergence there building already in bubbling Q. That cooler air from the lake breeze should break the cap on that warm front, and we'll get a supercell develop probably around 3 or 4 p.m. tomorrow. That's my prediction, some of the forecast models I'm seeing here. And the RFS model is picking it up very well, showing that first supercell fire at 4 as soon as that lake breeze touches the warm front, and that's between Kankakee and Pontiac tomorrow. So it's really just watching where that lake breeze, because I think that lake breeze is going to have a really big play in tomorrow's severe weather event. And I'm thinking that, if there is a moderate risk or a 15% hatch issued, it's probably going to be this area right here. Northeast of Bloomington, Pontiac, because they're probably going to be focused where that initiation fires first early in the late afternoon, evening, and that's going to be that lake breeze that interacts with the warm front, which causes your first supercell to develop. And it should become right movers and turn right. But just because that area is going to see the first initial wave of supercells, then you get other supercells here developing way back here as well. Either during the day, if cap is breakable. If not, you'll have to wait for the energy. And for cooling to happen in the late evening, so we could see 4 to 5 p.m. supercells building back here as well, from Macomb, Rushville to Springfield up to Peoria too, so Galesburg. So you'll see another wave of supercells developing probably around that time frame. But I think the earliest supercell that might pop is near Pontiac to Kankakee. Is what I'm currently thinking. If that lake breeze interacts with the warm front, that's what I'm currently thinking right now. But based on that, that's all we're looking at tomorrow. It's the significant severe weather setup. Stay tuned for later updates, and that's about it.